Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Shootaround. I am the only host of this podcast, Rudy Saint-Claire, and joining me, as is tradition, above me, is the legendary AlexHoops, as well as the one and only Sir Rusty Buckets. How are we doing today?
Good.
Doing good.
Sir
good.
thing made me upset because earlier today, like a 55-year-old man kept calling me sir, and I was like, dog, no. Call me boy as far as I'm concerned. I'd prefer that.
Note to self, no more calling you sir. Thank you to Chug for joining us in the chat. This is Derek Lively, the next Shaq. Maybe we'll get to that question later on in the stream. If you're listening at home, the answer is yes. Okay.
Not my first comp, to be honest. Not the first comp.
Probably not mine either.
If you're listening at home on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, be sure to leave us a 5-star review or whatever, and subscribe to also Rusty Buckets on YouTube so you can catch this show live and join the chat just like Chug. And if you're watching live right now, subscribe on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. You're basically, I'm trying to put you in a vicious cycle of supporting us one way or the other.
And you know what we never ask for? If you are listening on audio, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, whatever, leave a 5-star rating if you enjoy the podcast. Leave a bad rating if you don't enjoy the podcast. Either way, leave a rating because I think it helps us. I don't know how that stuff works.
We're just curious.
Yeah,
I want to see what happens.
Shout out to the Art of the Take podcast. We only accept 1-star and 5-star reviews. Nothing in the middle. You have to form a real opinion. But today we're going to talk a little bit about the James Harden trade. I'm sure anyone who's tuning in live right now has already gotten their fill in of James Harden's stuff. But for those at home who aren't live, people in the future, maybe they want to hear our opinion a little bit more because they're not big NBA nerds like us. We actually just had a podcast, 2 days ago? And then the next day, James Harden got traded. So we were both late and early with that.
You texted the group chat at 3 a.m. like, let's go live.
Right. We almost had an emergency podcast at 3 a.m. because of James.
No, almost is not a word I would use. So it wasn't even close to happening. For James Harden and the Clippers, come on now.
I almost called an emergency podcast last night because of the Grizzlies and the strong emotions they were giving me. But we'll get to that last in the show. I'm going to postpone that or procrastinate on it as much as humanly possible. James Harden to the Heat for a bunch of okay wins.
Not to the Heat.
That's to the Heat.
He's not going to the Heat.
Sorry, I got ahead of myself. That's next year. To the Clippers.
That's next. A good one.
Thank you. Yeah. What can I say? That's why I'm the only host. Do any of you fellas have the trade package memorized, or do I need to look it up right
I do.
All right,
spill it. James Harden, PJ Tucker go to the Clippers.
And some no-name center as well, who is now a king.
Oh, yeah. Philip Petrushev.
He is now a king.
Yeah. And then Robert Covington, Nick Batum, Marcus Morris, and picks. And then, is there one other player? Oh, KJ Martin. Duh. Those guys, and then, some second-round picks and some swap stuff is going
Did
to
you say Batum?
Philly.
I might have just blanked it.
Yeah, I did.
Okay. Yeah.
That's the package. That's it.
Literally, my first reaction when I saw the actual trade package was, man, I'm happy Robert Covington's in Philadelphia again.
Process legend, Rocco.
I'm not kidding. Robert Covington during the process might be my favorite Sixer of all time.
You know what's crazy that I saw on Twitter?
No, I don't. What'd you see?
Well, okay. Well, I'll get to it. Just wait. Hold your horses there, Jacob.
You asked me a question.
He's second all time in 3-pointers made as a Sixer, I believe.
Coming for that number one spot? It's hard to think of who would even be. Is it Iverson first? Because that's disgusting. Because Iverson wasn't even a prolific 3-point shooter. Who's number one?
AI. No, it's AI. Robert Covington.
Oh my God! No wonder.
Shooter, shoot, bro.
Oh my God, having Allen Iverson and Andre Iguodala in your top 5 3-point shooters of all time is so depressing. That's awful.
I'll never forget. I think it was like 2K11 or some crap like that. You know, one of the old good 2Ks where you could have a fun little dunk contest in the park. And anytime you use Andre Iguodala, the announcer would introduce him as AI version 2 or something like that. And I'm just like, man, that's just like
not even a little bit.
They're both AI initials and in Philadelphia, but that is it.
I guess
every other part of their game is completely different.
Yeah, if you gave Allen Iverson Andre Iguodala's body, we would say Michael Jordan who.
Damn right we would. Damn right we would. Let's talk about the Clippers side of things. Do we think that this brings them into contention status, or is this just something that kind of elevates their chances of making it to the Western Conference Finals?
Well, they were already in quote-unquote contention status, but like in a theoretical way. That's the thing that you kind of have to say about the Clippers all the time. Is like, especially if you look at their regular season record, Paul George and Kawhi Leonard kick fucking ass. And they're a very, very good team when they play. But that is such an uncommon occurrence. And now we've introduced an entire third factor of if he actually plays or not. So increased volatility for an already volatile franchise, but in exchange for the if the stars align, we're gonna cook.
Yeah, I already considered them contenders, so to speak. Like obviously
contenders.
everyone is pretty much just like, yeah, it's the Nuggets that are kind of at the top of the mountain right now. They're who you're gonna have to get through anyways. But the Sixers, or not the Sixers, the Clippers are still like, they were a good team before this trade. And even throughout like the start of this season, they've been incredibly good. They've been easily through like 5 games, sample size super small, but through 5 games, they've been like a top 3 team in the entire NBA. And getting James Harden, I understand the depth that they like. Depth, I use that a little bit generously because honestly, at this point in their careers, Marcus Morris and Robert Covington, there's only so much they're going to be giving you on a nightly basis.
Can I throw something out there? I will say, like, individually, none of those players are particularly excellent, but they did move for like genuine rotation, even in the postseason to some degree, rotation players for one guy. So it is still thinning out their depth, even if individually none of those guys were all that great.
Right, but I think for them at this point, it's that depth wasn't really doing anything for them. At this point, they needed a ceiling raiser, and this is what that move was to me, was like, okay, we need something else because just trying to make it happen the way we're currently constructed isn't going to work.
Yeah, and it's plausible that like having James as that other guy that can, you know, it's almost like they're doing a relay race of who's going to be in the rotation, but like tap James Harden in, he can help you get some regular season wins. And maybe like, let's say Kawhi is going to miss round 1, but he could theoretically be there in round 2. Maybe having Harden means you make it to round 2 when previously you wouldn't have.
Yeah. Right. And I like anyone who's worried about the fit to me, I don't have any reason to worry about the fit. James Harden has played with pretty much every different possible combination of like player archetypes when it comes to stars, and
still been effective.
There's no reason to believe he's not going to be fine and fit right in. And actually, I think this is going to be, when you look at kind of the trajectory of his career over the last 3 years, the scoring has diminished a little bit, but the playmaking has been as good as it's ever been. And now he's going to be able to come into the Clippers and be the third option. Like his scoring burden is going to be the lowest it's been since OKC or since, you know, Brooklyn, if you want to argue that. But
if people are playing, that's kind of the thing. Again, because even in that Brooklyn situation, it was like very rarely was he actually playing with both Kyrie and KD. When that happens, yeah, super low scoring load. But when maybe it's just Paul George or just Kawhi, he can provide a scoring punch that you previously really didn't have. Like you were hoping that Norman Powell would step up in that regard. They also have a playmaking, which is something that pretty much since the inception of Kawhi and PG as a duo in Los Angeles has been something that we've talked about them needing. And while Russell Westbrook has provided playmaking far more than anyone else has before that, how much you can truly play him in the postseason, how much teams are going to sag off of him and just completely neutralize his ability to impact the game all that much. Don't really have to worry about that with James Harden nearly as much. Something that I say pretty much all the time. Is that, your playmaking is not going to be as valuable if the defense doesn't respect you as a scorer. The defense is going to respect James Harden as a scorer far more than they do Russell Westbrook. And that will mean that this will be the best playmaking version of the Clippers that we have seen.
Pardon me for, making this about Russ, but I feel like Russ is really the odd man out here. Like, obviously he's not who he once was, but at this point in his career, James Harden is definitively a point guard, not just a all-time talent playmaker for a two guard. He's been a point guard for a while now. Even in Brooklyn, he was playing the one, with the Kyrie as the two. So now going back to that two guard spot, do you think that's really going to be comfortable for him? Or are Russ and James going to be similarly used to how they were in Houston? Or is this going to be like a 1A and 1B type of sharing the load as the point guard type of beat?
Well,
I think they're going to be using Russ and Harden together very similarly to how they did in Houston.
Yep.
Because it was so predicated, like their success that season was heavily, heavily predicated on literally the two-man game between those two. And that created pretty much everything else for the other guys on the floor. And it was like insane how effective it was. And obviously athleticism is a question mark now as both of them are a little bit older. Russ still looks like he doesn't lack any burst, but Harden's slowed down a little bit. Even if it's not a ton, he's definitely slowed down since those years in Houston. And I still think they're going to be able to extract a lot from these two playing them together. And at least for now, obviously we're going to have to see how things go and how Ty Lue plans on using them together, if he's actually going to take a page out of Houston's book and try to do things similarly. But as of right now, I don't think there's any reason why they can't play together and actually have more success, because instead of being surrounded by, Jeff Green,
PJ Tucker at
Capella,
center.
They're going to be surrounded by Paul George, Kawhi Leonard, and Zubac.
Well, actually, PJ Tucker will be there. I forgot about that.
But probably off the bench.
PJ Tucker actually is still around, but
James can't get rid of him.
Yeah, but Jesus, yeah. One thing I was going to add, you did say that Harden, maybe obviously hasn't fallen off as much as Russell Westbrook has, but I would say he's fallen off rather significantly from what he was for sure. Like top 5 player to, maybe top 20.
I'm not talking about just overall. I'm talking about like specifically these two being able to like create dribble penetration and generate advantages. I'm not talking about like overall body of work.
Gotcha. Yeah, I will say, speaking on what happened with Houston, now that's not going to be something that is integral to their success because they have Kawhi and Paul George, but also, Russell Westbrook and like not playing him, you can get away with that way more than you did with the Houston Rockets back in 2020. Because like if Russ isn't playing, what the fuck are you doing? Like if you can't win with Russ, you're not going to win back in 2020. Now, if Russell Westbrook is just getting iced out by playoff defenses and is just a net negative, you can sub him out and he makes $3 million. So who cares? People will be a little bit upset on Twitter, but in terms of like actually making the basketball move that works for you, you can do that and still have a very, 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 very good team out there. So I think regular season wise, we'll see a lot of that Rockets type connection between the two. And in the postseason, I imagine that will become far less of a fundamental and facet of how their offense works, but it can get them along in the regular season for sure to like hopefully have a high seed at least.
Yeah. We can sit here like all day and say, they'll be good if they don't get injured, but like this team's they're going to be good if they don't get injured. That's all there is to it. I don't know how anyone can say a team with James Harden, Kawhi Leonard, and Paul George, even at this point in their careers, isn't a very, 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 very good trio of players to try and contend with. Like, yes, health is the biggest question, but that team theoretically is going to be insane.
That's really good.
MVP really of the chat last podcast, BR Dr. Dat says 3 Hall of Famers, 1 leg. So, that's pretty good chat. Thought I'd go ahead and highlight that. Oh man. But what about the Sixers side of this equation? So obviously the Clippers, it's just about health. For the Sixers, I feel like they've kind of revitalized this roster, giving Joel Embiid a chance not to be upset.
Yeah, maybe.
Define revitalized.
Obviously, they're not the Celtics, and obviously they're not the Bucks, ? But the Sixers still have a chance to kind of get lucky and maybe work their way into a finals this season if this roster pans out. Yeah, like the coaching change is fresh. Maybe that sort of change is the type of thing that's going to really maximize the benefits like towards the end of the season compared to Doc Rivers. Nick Nurse is a way better upgrade.
Is he? I'm no fan of Doc Rivers, but I don't think Nick Nurse is that exceptional of a coach either. But that obviously, 4 players that can conceivably be in your rotation versus one guy that security wasn't letting on the plane. Those 4 guys is better than what you had before. And it's nice to have wing depth, especially because it's pretty good sized wings, guys who can hopefully hit open spot ups when they bring doubles on Embiid. It especially seems like Nick Nurse has like emphasized playmaking from Joel Embiid as a part of Philadelphia's offense. So having guys that can just simply be 3-and-D is nice. I also think KJ Martin could be really interesting playing off of that, especially like if he times some backdoor cuts at the right time, that could be utilized very well. KJ is probably like the best. He could be the best player out of there, honestly, especially if Marcus Morris decides he wants to take 15 shots every time he gets in the game. But wings and 3-and-D wings are a very hot commodity. You just got like a C+, maybe B- version of 4 of them.
Yeah, it's funny too because if you look at their roster, at least to start the season so far, like I can't think of it off the top of my head, but they have decent players like 1 through 6, 1 through 7, and I was thinking about it and like. All 4 of the guys that they got in this trade theoretically are like gonna have to fight for like a top 9 rotational spot. Like there's a decent amount of depth for Philly to choose from. So there's not necessarily a guarantee that a guy like Marcus Morris is gonna even get playing time.
All right. If we take a look at the roster here, we got, a little bit of Tyrese Maxey and Mo Bamba.
I forgot they had Mo Bamba.
Yeah, Kelly Oubre. I forgot about. He's been playing good for them. I don't know
crazy
good. Fantastic so far.
I don't know how long that's going to last, though.
Yeah. D'Anthony Melton is a solid rotational player. Let's see. I don't know who Ricky Council the Fourth is. Never heard that name in my life. Pat Bev's on this team. Forgot about that too.
Yeah, he's been playing. I don't know if he's been necessarily playing well, but he's been in the rotation.
Can we take a minute to pour one out for Furkan Korkmaz? The man is trapped in the hell of Philadelphia, just wants out, and
someone just needs to make like a psychological horror film from the perspective of Furkan Korkmaz dealing with the Sixers over the years.
It's just the movie Groundhog Day, and it's like him wanting to get out of the loop so bad, but they just won't trade him.
God damn it, Embiid choked in the playoffs again.
I'm just curious, like how Furkan got wind of the trade and then was like, okay, can you include me, please put me on the trade. I don't want to be here anymore. My contract's really low. Just throw me in there. And they're like, nope.
Anywhere.
And the Clippers were like, no, we don't want you. Don't throw him in. We don't want him.
I mean, I feel like Korkmaz is probably better than the 15th man on the Clippers, but I can't be all that sure.
Yeah. But we know Nick Nurse doesn't like deep rotations.
It's also true.
I think that's the right perspective, personally, at least, of course, for the postseason. Like, I think you should not be running, unless you just happen to have excellent depth, you should be running an 8-man rotation in the postseason.
All I know is that in NBA 2K, if you set your lineups to change before every game automatically based on performance, and you set it to be like 10 or 11 guys, you usually do way better than like an 8 or 9 man rotation.
Okay, I don't give a shit about what 2K says. How about we play a quick game that I'm coming up with on the spot? Let's pick an 8-man rotation for the Philadelphia 76ers.
All right, yeah, I'll bring the roster back on screen.
So we go Maxey at the 1. Are we thinking, do we go like really big and put like Batum or Rocco?
I say we ignore position and just do a top 8, because we're gonna overthink the crap out of this if we try and go by position.
I mean, Embiid, Maxey, Tobias, those are the 3 that are like guaranteed.
Melton's also guaranteed.
Is he? I don't know if Melton's guaranteed.
Really freaking good, dude.
No.
I think he's pretty close to guaranteed, personally.
Right. I'm definitely. I was gonna say Melton next if you let me finish.
No,
bitch. But I wouldn't be shocked if he ended up barely scraping at the bottom of the barrel here. Kelly, I'm gonna predict that Kelly isn't good because he has never been, and I don't think he will be. So I'm going to predict by the time the year is over, we're like, yeah, Kelly Oubre, not a rotation player.
Side note, did Kelly Oubre skip media day? Why the hell is he wearing this Charlotte Hornets uniform with the 6 patch on it on NBA.com?
I think he got signed. He got signed like at the very start of the season. So
wow.
Yeah.
All right. Guess we're going to be looking at that picture for another year.
So Melton, who do we think this is essentially the starting forward? I guess Robert Covington, do we think?
Probably Robert Covington.
I think KJ will be in the rotation as well. So that's 6.
Batum.
I'm going to look something up real quick.
Take your time.
Paul Reed might have to crack the rotation just by virtue of being the only other big man.
I think he will comfortably be in the rotation, personally.
Gotcha. So that's 7. Who's the last man in?
So I'm looking at so far this season, just based on minutes.
Batum was very good last year. Very good within, the context of being Nick Batum.
So we've said Maxey, Tobias Harris, Joel Embiid, Kelly Oubre, DeAnthony Melton.
No, we said no Kelly. I mean, I said no Kelly. You guys can argue it for him if you want.
Let's pencil him in. He's
playing really well so far.
Right.
Obviously, it's a small sample, but
it's a very small sample, and he has. I cannot tell you how many times I've went to a Hornets game and just hated Kelly Oubre for how bad of a product he was putting in front of my eyes.
Okay, we'll say for now he's up in the air. So Maxey, Tobias Harris, Joel Embiid, DeAnthony Melton. Do we think Patrick Beverley stays in the rotation?
No, dude, Patrick Beverley's bad. Patrick Beverley is a bad player.
But he is Patrick Beverley.
No, he's bad. He was so bad for the Bulls. I cannot tell you how bad he was.
So Paul Reed, I think, stays in the rotation. So that's 5.
Did you get Melton?
Yeah, this is including Melton. So that pretty much leaves to choose from.
Well, But I think I honestly
Oubre,
think
the guys that they got in the trade, etc.
I think KJ Martin will make the rotation because I'm a big fan of him personally. I'm pretty sure you are as well, Alex, if I recall.
Yeah, I think he can definitely be. I think he can probably end up being the best player they got from this trade. So I
Yeah,
think
so
that's
let's pencil him in. So that's definitely 6.
Averaging
And
10 points a game over 200 games in his career. Not bad.
I think Robert Covington is probably the other wing that makes it out. Because Marcus tries to do too much. If Marcus would just chill, Marcus just shot the ball 40% as much as he wants to, then he could definitely be in the rotation. But he's just got bad tendencies.
Yeah, I think Jaden Springer deserves some love because I think he has looked decent at time. I'm not saying he is going to be a 20-minute per game kind of guy, but I think it's possible he ends up being like a consistent 15-minute per game guy sporadically. But we'll see. I'm not gonna like advocate for him being in this top 8.
Yeah.
Just keep an eye on him. Just keep an eye on him.
Yeah.
So I don't know what our 8 ends up being.
I mean, if we
place.
keep Kelly, then we're just deciding between Robert and Batum. Who do we think between those two?
I mean, I would say last year
the Clippers
Batum
were
was
all
probably
about
better.
Batum. The Clippers really liked Batum far more than Robert.
Yeah, I feel like it's just going to come down to like who does Nick Nurse like more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I don't know. Pick
all
one.
Right.
Flip a coin.
Let's just finalize this top 8. Embiid, Maxey, Melton, Tobias, Kelly. Then KJ, Paul Reed, and then
let's just say Rocco because I believe in Rocco.
Fair enough.
Fair enough, indeed. Yeah, pretty good little game there. I don't mind it at all.
I would not be surprised though if it was Batum over Kelly by the time the postseason came around because Kelly is usually bad.
Yeah, you definitely want to give Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid more of those offensive touches than Kelly Oubre when the games count for so much more, you know?
Correct. Kelly has reckless tendencies that I don't know if I'd want to see in a playoff environment.
I think the overall important point here is that the Sixers got options.
Yeah, they do. They definitely got better. And the thing that's really interesting, I think it's better enough to keep Joel Embiid at bay for a year, especially if Tyrese Maxey continues to be excellent. And then you can be like, hey, maybe at the traded line or maybe just in the offseason in general, you bring in somebody who also makes big bucks, who's hopefully worth those big bucks. And you've got yourself a big 3 there.
I want to go ahead and spin this moment to bring up a chat or two. Brent says, I can see the 76ers looking to get Levine. I almost said Levine, but I didn't want to anger you today. I already called you sir. So we were talking about this IRL not too long ago because I saw some sponsored tweet by a sports book suggesting that the favorite for landing Zach LaVine in a trade was the Heat. And you're like, well, that's ridiculous. And we ended up chatting about that for like 15 minutes. But Sixers makes more sense than the Heat.
It's ridiculous, especially given that so far Tyler Hero is averaging 29 points a game. It's like, oh, do you want Zach LaVine or Zach LaVine who won a dunk contest a while ago?
Yeah.
And is a worse playmaker.
Chad O'Quinn said, thank God I could finally make a pod. Thank you for making it, Chad. I appreciate you attending. And we got a couple super chats, so thank you very much for these donations. We got $2. It's basically a video request. It just has a video about how horrible Patrick Williams has been. Honestly, might bang Jacob. It could be worth pursuing. Or Alex, you know. Yeah, maybe we should all.
I might make a second channel, Patrick. I might make a second channel, Patrick Williams video, but that's not main channel topic.
Yeah, so keep your eyes open for that, Melvin. Thank you for your donation.
Well, he has been bad. You're correct.
And then we got a $5 from Rake Jake. Says, are the Wolves actually a bad matchup for the Nuggets, or was it just a horrible shooting night for everyone not named Jokic on the Nuggets?
Well, I think the
Timberwolves are. Yeah, it's definitely a both, but I think the Timberwolves just generally like play the Nuggets well due to like not just the fact that they're probably the best team that's equipped to handle the Nuggets' size. Like the Nuggets are just such a big team, and the Timberwolves are a really, really big team. It's like, okay, they can handle, dealing with Jokic down low constantly for 48 minutes, and they can deal with, all of these screening actions happening off ball because they have Jaden McDaniels that can fight over them and still contest shots. And it's like, they didn't have a off shooting night just because they had an off shooting night. It's like,
honestly, that shit drives me crazy.
Alex, we lost you. Your mic has been cut off. Oh,
Okay.
That shit kind of drives me crazy when like a team just locks up and they're like, well, they had a bad shooting night. It's like, yeah, I wonder why. I mean, definitely, I think Jamal Murray was like 0 for 9 at the start at least. Like that's probably a little bit of an extreme, but
yeah. There's a balance for sure. But
a little off.
Yeah, I mean, I just think
sorry. Unfortunate.
Yeah. Return of this issue from the.
I hate breaking it to him. I hate to be the one that lets him know.
It's truly a tragedy every time that he has to leave us for a moment to resynchronize his audio and visuals. Man, I was really hoping this issue would subside with changing the streaming service. But
my internet, it was the stream.
We're in the wrong order now. I feel weird being in this corner.
Yeah,
there we go. This is back where I belong.
Right. And then we got one more chat that I want to bring up right now, and it's going to transition us into our main segment of the podcast today. Mango asks, are the Bucks cooked? What we're going to do today is we're going to go over all these teams that are looking real shaky through the first few games of the year, and starting off with the most notable, the new Milwaukee Bucks with Damian Lillard and Adrian Griffin. Scuba asked us, is Adrian Griffin going to have a job by the end of the month? Maybe not.
God, it would be so fucking messy for a head coaching change right now.
I don't see that happening personally. Yeah.
But as much
they
as
look like a team that just got a brand new coach, not just a new coach, but a rookie head coach.
Yeah.
And not to mention the stabilizing coaching force in the locker room quit like during the preseason with like after like a shouting match or something like that. Terry Stotts left the team due to behavior at practice, basically. Not him yelling, but getting yelled at.
Why don't we let's actually transition into the actual subject instead of just walking into it. So what are we doing here, Rudy? What's the top? What are we doing?
Our goal right now is to determine whether or not these teams should press the panic button. Alex, you want to press that panic button?
That is not a panic.
That's a little bit more. Oh wait, yeah. Go for the panic one. That was the celebratory button. There it is. It's a little quiet, but it'll do. It'll do. It's just like the last.
Sounds like it happened from a cave across the street.
But starting off with the Bucks, fellas, do they need to hit the panic button or not? There it is.
There it is. I'm gonna go with a hard no on this one. I think when you take into consideration that we're talking about a rookie head coach who got Damian Lillard a week ago and like literally like wasn't it after training camp or like right as it's happening? I can't imagine a more disastrous circumstance to start the season outside of course, there is the positive of having Damian Lillard, but this dude's like, fuck, this entire game plan I spent an entire summer putting together is useless because Damian Lillard is in place of Drew Holiday. And that goes for both sides of the floor. The game plan is completely changing. So it only makes sense that they would have some struggles, especially if you're going to get a 3-point performance from Damian Lillard. Like, that's just a fucking crazy outlier there. I know we just talked about, like, it's the defense, actually. Don't just say bad shooting night. But, like, 3 points from Damian Lillard is something else.
Speaking of defense, let's talk about Milwaukee's defense. because I got some
bad.
interesting numbers here.
It's been historically bad.
It's actually kind of impressive how bad it's been.
Yeah.
So, from 3-point range, they are allowing 42.2% from 3
Woof.
on the defensive end. From mid-range, they are allowing 48.1%.
Oh, man.
For context, for those who don't know, league average from mid-range is like 42%. So 48% is really, really bad. But that's not even the worst number here. The Milwaukee Bucks are allowing, by far, the highest field goal percentage in the league at the rim.
And just completely frozen. Alex Hoops, man.
I thought he was
Alex, get
pausing.
internet.
I thought he was pausing for emphasis. Oh, dog, that's rough.
He's still frozen. What a screenshot. I'm gonna leave him there. I'm just gonna leave him right
Everybody
there.
screenshot
Pick up where he
that
left.
and send it to Alex on Twitter.
I'm gonna pick up where he left off and add that the Milwaukee Bucks currently have the worst defensive rating in NBA history, and Alex Hoops is back. We actually still have the old Alex Hoops above me, and now to my
which one's better? We'll
right?
find out.
Well, can you guys hear me at least?
Yeah,
Yes.
we can hear you. at
Okay.
least.
I apologize to everyone for the technical difficulties. I have no idea what's going on. It says I have internet. I don't know why it's not working. Anyways,
It's all those
the
torrents.
Bucks are allowing by far the worst field goal percentage at the rim of any team in the NBA, 80.9%.
Yeah.
Teams
that's
are
rough.
scoring 81% efficiency at the rim against the Bucks, who have Brook Lopez and Giannis.
Yeah, that's the type of thing where I go, there's just absolutely no fucking way that stays. Do you know what I mean? Like that's just impossible that any of those stats would maintain themselves. And that's not to say that Milwaukee isn't making mistakes on defense, but if you have Giannis and Brook Lopez on the floor focused and having, their energies put in the right spot and things not just being weird because it's the start of the season, you are not going to get defense that is this terrible. There's just no way. Even if Brook Lopez is officially washed, he's still gigantic.
Yeah, this is just like unsustainably bad defense. Will they be? Is it possible that they're a bad defense this year? Maybe, but there is very, very little chance that they are this bad of a defense.
I mean, besides Giannis, though, like, what do they have as far as options when it comes to perimeter defense? Because trading away Drew Holiday, people, at the time, I thought kind of overblew how much impact he had on that overall defense. Obviously, perimeter defense has its place in this league, but when you have Giannis as your help defender and Brook Lopez as your anchor, having a guy that's going to let a blow-by happen here and there isn't the worst consequence in the world, but maybe I was wrong. Maybe Drew Holiday is the heart and soul. Like, what are they going to do as far as perimeter defense?
Here's the thing. First thing that came to my mind almost immediately after the Dame trade, which probably a complete dork for thinking this, but I was immediately like, man, y'all should have kept Javon Carter. That would have been nice. But that aside, there is something to be said about Drew, just stopping people from driving, but B, when he allows a drive, he does a very good job, and Milwaukee has historically done a very good job of funneling them right into the spot to get fucked up by Brook Lopez or Giannis. And now I feel like so many of these just guys walking to the rim is happening that Brook and Giannis just are not quite ready to deal with that, and it's an adjustment period that they have to work with. Like, ultimately, if the floodgates are open, they can be as good defensively as they want. There's still going to be plenty of fucking leakage happening. So it's definitely a problem. I think they could potentially, if I were them, I would really look to see if it's possible to get some sort of like defensive wing that you can rely on a little bit more. But even if they are sticking with this roster directly, like, you can game plan the defense still being ultimately good. And I think we will get to that point. We are just early on in the year. They've experienced some outlier shooting from their opponents, and everything from a schematic standpoint is kind of chaos right now because of the circumstance of Dame getting there so late.
Yeah. To me, it's also a situation where, like, if you watch some of the burden that Giannis and Brook have to bear now on the defensive end, like, all three of the defenders of Drew Holiday, Brook Lopez, and Giannis, they're all guys who are very good at cleaning up the mistakes that may happen on any given possession.
Mm-hmm.
And while Giannis and Brook may have been very, very good defenders in the context of their defense last year, Drew Holiday, while maybe he's not like the most absolutely spectacular, amazing player in the world during the playoffs, he still kept that defense together to a certain extent and was part of the glue that held things together. And so now, yes, they may not be the defense that they were last year, but at worst, I think this is a situation where they're just figuring out how to transition from, okay, we have this three-headed defensive monster from last year that is not existent anymore. We now have to figure out how to maximize Brook and Giannis without having great defensive personnel right now. And yeah, it might involve making a move, but it definitely looks, from the games that I've watched the Bucks play so far, it definitely looks like a team that just has not played together very long, and a coach that is figuring out how this is going to work.
Yeah.
Honestly, so my hand's like hovering over the panic button.
Even as disastrous as the defense has been, like literally historically disastrous, honestly, the thing that concerns me far more is how little chemistry Dame and Giannis have had together. Because you look at those two on paper, and everyone immediately, Damian Lillard himself was like, what, that pick and roll, what the fuck do you do? It seems like they have found a way to stop themselves so opponents don't have to worry about it.
Yeah. The stop is just them not even attempting it. As far as I know, the frequency of Giannis and Dame's pick and roll game is incredibly low. And not to mention, on top of that, this group is sort of boxed into each other. They kind of have to figure this out with this roster. They have very, very little flexibility. I tried to imagine a scenario where they could do a trade for someone like an OG or an Alex Caruso, but really the only movable contract they have that's like kind of disposable, kind of not, is Pat Connaughton. And I don't think the Bulls are taking Pat Connaughton for Caruso straight up.
Yeah, I don't think they have any. I don't think they can trade picks anymore.
They can't trade any picks. They have the 2024 rights to swap with the Pelicans. Then they got the same thing happening.
I'm pretty sure you can trade that still.
Right, but not. They don't have the 2025 pick, so the Stepien rule, which they also don't have the 2027 pick, so they can't trade the 26. And then the
draft
only
night trade for Alex Caruso maybe for next year.
Maybe. I don't know, man. I would panic if I'm the Bucks personally. I think this is a bit of divine karma for firing Coach Bud, given the circumstances of his firing. In case everyone forgot, or the listeners at home don't know, Mike Budenholzer's brother died in a vehicular accident of some sort, I think during the playoffs. And on top of the Heat shooting like 75% from three, that definitely had to have some sort of impact on the quality of play there in Milwaukee. I don't think it was the right thing to do for them to let go of Bud, even though probably for years people in our circle have been advocating for Bud to be dismissed from Milwaukee so they can just try something new. He's been he was crucial to their championship. At the same time, after that, and before then there was also questions. So
one thing I'll say about Bud, the thing that I pretty regularly said about him that may prove to be not true through seeing what Adrian Griffin does with this team, is that I was always like, I mean, what Mike Budenholzer established in Milwaukee and how it made them successful, he did that as soon as he got there. And then pretty much nothing changed for the next, 5 years or however long it's been. So it's like, okay, if you're not going to change anything, and we already know that these things that you've applied that are good do work, just have someone else that will apply those things, but also not be so stubborn as to only do them. But right now, they're kind of awful at the things that they used to be really good at. So maybe you just do need someone in there who's constantly being like, this is what works. This is what we do. And right now, whatever they're trying is sure as shit not working. So, yeah, I do fear for them. Ultimately, what I'm going to say is, though, once Chris Middleton is like a regular rotation player and he's not just randomly playing 17 minutes sometimes, and he's finally getting more comfortable, and once Dame and Giannis figure their shit out, which they're both insanely good players who have extremely complementary skill sets, they're going to figure it out. And ultimately, like, we're talking about a couple of games, and they've been some bad losses, especially to the fucking Raptors, but they'll figure it out. I'm not going to hit panic over a couple of games, given the context of how this team was assembled, given that we're talking about a rookie head coach.
Yeah, like, they're 2-2. It's not like they
Yeah.
It's not like they're Miami, who we're going to talk about.
It's just they've had bad losses. That's the problem.
Yeah.
But the Heat, on the other hand, are like one shot away from being right there with the Grizzlies and being a winless squad. The only winless squad in the NBA is the Grizzlies right now, but the Heat are right there on the verge at 1-4. Their only victory coming against the Pistons, if I remember correctly, by 1 point. So is it time to panic if you're the Heat? Oh, that sounds like a panic button being hit to me. I would panic personally.
I would panic. I was panicking about the Heat before the season started.
Yeah. Yeah.
This really recontextualizes the Jimmy Butler emo picks. Like, as funny as the emo media day shtick was when it felt like it was kind of a reaction to not getting Damian Lillard right and accusing Milwaukee of tampering, being a little bit cute about it. I think when you look at those media day photos now and you see Jimmy Butler in emo attire surrounded by a bunch of dudes who it looks like he might not even make the playoffs with, it looks like he's emo about being on a sorry ass team, So like, yeah, I'm panicking if I'm the Heat for sure.
If there's any positive to take away, it's that Tyler Hero has been excellent, but that's about it. A lot of people have been suggesting that Jimmy Butler is washed just based off of him being pretty fucking rough so far. And honestly, like, I get that the Miami Heat obviously just went to the fucking NBA Finals playing like this, but you can't do the I'm resting for the postseason thing, or like I'm really not trying in the games that I'm in thing, when you're maybe going to scratch the 7th seed. Like, that is, you can't have that fucking mindset if you're not very, very, very confident you will have a spot in the playoffs.
Looking at their team leaders right now, we got Tyler Hero at 26 a game, whereas Jimmy Butler is putting up a measly 16. What are you going to say, Alex? I feel like I cut you off.
Oh, no. We came into the season with the Heat, and my whole thing was, yes, they made it to the finals, but last year, like, they barely made the playoffs. Like, it took a pretty valiant effort to even get to the playoffs. And now you look at where they're at and the position that they're in, to start the season, 5 games into the season. Now, obviously there's a ridiculous amount of time left. It's unlikely that they remain, a team on pace for a pretty low amount of wins, but like, if they had to fight as hard as they did last year to make the playoffs, I feel like they're going to have even more of an uphill battle this year. Just based on what we've seen so far, it's rough. It's pretty rough.
Yeah, I don't think the Heat are going to be in the finals again for a very long time.
Never count Eric Spoelstra out, but maybe count the Heat out this season. If they turn it around, I wouldn't be like crazy surprised because it's the Heat, it's Jimmy Butler, it's Eric Spoelstra. But right now, it does not look likely.
Yeah, as you were talking about Eric Spoelstra, it kind of made me have a thought, and it's just, I guess, an interesting thing to pose. Because, of course, Eric Spoelstra kind of came into our collective consciousness once Dwayne Wade, LeBron James, and Chris Bosh were on
He's
the
just
Miami
a figment
Heat.
of our imagination. He
Yes.
doesn't actually exist.
Right, but like he became a name when that happened, right? And
Absolutely.
I remember pretty vividly all the time people were talking about firing Eric Spoelstra because, you know, he has all these stars and LeBron James coaches. That's how it goes. Part of me feels like, because I was immediately thinking it would be cool to see Eric Spoelstra with another team that has like good players. But also I feel like maybe the Eric Spoelstra magic is in his ability to stretch such a not great roster into so much success. And maybe just, you know, when it's the Heatles, he just kind of fades into the background.
Yeah. Did you see him risen up Anthony Edwards?
What?
He was like
No.
putting his hands on his shoulder. Yeah, he's recruiting, you know, doing a little in-season tampering. No big deal. Before we, unless we have more thoughts on the Heat.
No,
Okay.
that's all there is.
But do the sound effect for panic.
Yeah, we're panicking. Man, nothing like a soundboard. I noticed that we got a few more donations, so I want to go ahead and bring those to our attention.
Oh my God! All right.
Sorry.
No,
I slipped. My finger slipped.
Right. Legend of the chat,
Gents.
especially from last stream, Timon gives us 7 Canadian smackaroos. Afternoon, gents. Who do we think is going to win the in-season tournament? Personally, my pick is the Mavericks.
Personally, I don't really understand how it works and probably won't until I see it happen.
Just some of the regular season games count as tournament games.
Right. But like kind of the way that my brain works, I'm never going to understand a game until I see the game being played. I need a couple of
You're probably
rounds.
horrible to play Monopoly with.
Well, I just don't play it because I hate it. But anytime anyone in my family has suggested Monopoly in the past few years, it has got shut down hardcore. So it's not something I have to worry about. But I didn't understand the play-in until I saw it for the first year, and I had so many people explain it to me. I just have to see it.
Yeah, visual learner, Rusty Buckets.
There's 0 consequences to who I pick, so I'm going to say OKC.
Now we're cooking with gas.
Yeah, there's 0 consequences to who I pick, so I'm going to say the Bulls are going to lose.
Well, it's been funny watching Bulls games with you because you're like, no, stop making shots. I want you guys to lose.
Literally, I don't think there is a bigger Bulls hater on earth than me right now. I don't think there are people tuning into Bulls games to be like, fuck you, you suck, Patrick.
Yeah. He'll text our group chat and be like, how do you do, fellow OKC fans? Would you like to watch our OKC Thunder together?
Yeah, you're actually dead serious when you say like you're on the verge of never watching the Bulls again. That's something you said last podcast.
I've only been watching them to hate on them, and I will not watch them and be like positive. I will not watch them and be like, hell yeah, go Bulls until it's a fundamentally different roster.
Dude, hate watching your own team is crazy. Aramis Jones gave us $20. Thank you, Aramis. For the big old donation.
All right, dog. We got to take that.
My finger slipped. I'm sorry.
We cannot let him have that. He's.
I can't say I would be any better.
He
I would probably
know how to
be way worse.
Responsibly.
Does anybody?
I'll tighten up.
Yeah,
I'm joking.
I'm joking. Shout out to Will Levis.
Is that the first I think you should leave reference on the pod?
No, we actually had one a couple episodes ago. but I don't know where it came from. There was just a comment that said, "Shout out to Rudy for the I think you should leave" reference. I'm just like,
Oh,
man,
I
I
remember
know it's
that.
just in my vernacular, but I don't know. You should have timestamped that, buddy. You
That
really
might
should have
be
timestamped
It might be my favorite sketch of all time, and anytime someone makes a
So
reference
funny.
to it, it just kills me.
Yeah. Aramis gave us $20, and we have not read his comment yet. So let me get that off.
I'm sorry.
Have y'all watched? Or have y'all touched on the Pelicans yet? If not, what do y'all think so far? Did you see the game versus OKC last night where we came back
I
from
did.
down 22? Alex, this is all you because I have not watched a lick of Pelicans basketball this season.
I do want to make just one point right at the top, and then Alex can take it away. But I do want to say, not all like 20-point leads that are blown are created equal. In the case of the Pelicans, they went 1 for 21 from 3 to start the game. So they were down, not because OKC was playing all that great. I mean, the defense was a part of it, but also they were just missing. And then they finally woke the fuck up. And OKC to that point, I don't even think OKC was playing great to get that 20-point lead. So I'm trying to give them a pass here.
Yeah, I mean, they OKC doesn't deserve a pass for this loss, in my opinion.
Really?
To me, they played embarrassingly bad. The first half, I mean, yes, definitely the first half. It was like a situation where the Pelicans were shooting terrible. Jordan Hawkins was like 1 of 13 from 3 in the first half or something stupid like that. It was like insane. Or not from 3, but from the field or something like that. It was really,
goddamn.
It was really, really, really bad. And OKC, they capitalized on some poor shooting and they did a good job of scoring and making stuff happen. But yeah, the third quarter rolls around and, they're still keeping it competitive, but they definitely let the Pelicans back in the game. And you can criticize their defense for even allowing the Pelicans to get back in the first place, but it's not like the Pelicans were doing anything unrealistic. They were just playing at a more reasonable level. It wasn't like they became like some god tier team all of a sudden and just went out of control. And it was just, no, they were playing more toward, they regressed towards the mean. And then OKC, on the other hand, on the offensive end, what was frustrating is so many times they'll start out really, really good because the defense is kind of figuring them out and seeing them for the first time. And then as the game goes on, because OKC is so predictable and there's not a whole lot of variety to the offense, the defense just gets better and better as the game goes on because they're like, okay, we're seeing the same look in the half court every single time. Nothing's different. The defense is just going to get used to that and know how OKC is going to be playing off of that and what they're looking to get out of any given possession. And so to me, this game was a big indictment on some of the problems that OKC has as an offensive team. Defensively, yeah, they should have locked up better and slowed the Pelicans down. Rebounding was a big issue. The Pelicans got a lot of second chance points. That's something the Thunder are going to have to be better at. But really, the offense as a whole was very underwhelming in the second half of this game, and especially to close the game, it was so one-dimensional and so waiting around on Shea to make something happen, waiting around on J-Dub to make something happen. It's like you have to be more unpredictable than that. You have to make sure that the defense is having to process as much as you can possibly make them process on any given possession.
Yeah, there's three things that I'd like to see from OKC's offense more. And like as I was formulating them in my head, I was kind of like, oh, this is just what an NBA offense is, and they're just not really doing it. But I'd like to see more pin downs, like shooters coming off of screens, especially for Isaiah Joe. And I want to see Chet maybe utilized more as a playmaking hub a little bit, like not as a foundational thing, but like giving him opportunities. And then I really, really want to see more cutting because I feel like there has been very little of that.
So I don't disagree with you. I think some of those things are like Isaiah Joe and pin downs. honestly, I think that's a big part of how he's used already. I don't know if giving him more opportunities and more shots is necessarily the answer, because like, something like that just for the sake of like, oh, maybe he'll get a shot off of it. Like something like that is just doing it for the sake of doing it. I think it needs to be in the context of something larger in the half court where the defense has already had to process something somewhere else on the floor. And then like, maybe a weak side pin down is happening elsewhere, more intention behind these things rather than just like they need to do more of them, because they are doing them. It's just not everything is happening together at the same time, and that's where the issue is.
The point that
I have different elements of the offense.
Right.
They just need to put it together.
Yeah, it seems like, and I guess the way I laid it out made it sound so like the entire point of this play is the pin down. Like I just think there's too much ball watching happening, and having those things happening while Giddey or Shea or J-Dub have the ball, it's just going to make the defense work a little bit more. And I think the problem is that it's just way too simple. That's a great way to spice some things up. And they've, like you say, a lot of the times that you've seen them run sets, it seems like there's one, maybe two outcomes of that play. And if, they end up passing it to Isaiah and he's covered, just pass it out, or maybe he takes the shot anyway, because sometimes he does that. Either way, just more dynamicism is, I don't even know if that's a word, but
it is now. Alex, let me put it this way for you. Would you trade, is his name Mark Daignault? Did I get that right?
Mark Daignault.
Daignault.
But yeah, you said it close enough.
Would you trade Mark Daignault for Willie Green today?
Oh, that's a really tough question. I mean,
talking about coaches.
I when it comes to like trading coaches, I don't. A coach can look good for one team and then look really bad for another, because it's possible that one coach just works really, really well with this group of people, and another coach works really well.
You want Billy D back?
No, I'm good.
He's actually like an excellent defensive coach, but I think he's supposed to be an assistant.
We need some. I need to see Mark getting his bag a little bit on the offensive end. The defense, I'm not as worried about. I mean, there are some issues, but also young team, yada yada yada. But the offense is where I need to see him kind of step up a little bit. Let's see what you got. I'm ready for him to spice things up.
So like the ultimate verdict is that it was less the Pelicans came back and more like OKC blew it, huh?
Oh yeah. I mean, I don't want to take credit away from the Pelicans because it was a valiant effort. It was a great game, but OKC blew that. They blew the game.
We also definitely talked only about OKC when the question was about the Pelicans. The Pelicans are. I've said this already. If Zion's healthy, I think they're a legitimate contender.
Yeah, they've been good, and like Brandon Ingram hasn't really been playing. Like, he didn't even play in the game last night. Has he played a game yet this season? Didn't. He's played 2 games this year. They played 4. So like, they're 3-1. They're so far they look like a decent team, which they looked horrible in the preseason. Like genuinely horrible basketball. And now I'm like, oh no, okay, they're fine. They're all right.
I'm a big Trey Murphy guy. That's all I have to say.
Yeah, they're this good and he's not even back yet. Like, goodness gracious.
Yeah.
Jose Alvarado either. He's not back yet.
Oh, wow. I didn't realize they were missing Jose. Completely overlooked that. Well, thank you, Aramis, for your Pelicans-centered chat. I know we kind of made a little bit about OKC, but hey, that's our...
All right, I think, unless we got another chat, I think it's time to talk about...
No, it's not.
It is. You can't run from it.
But people are giving us money. We need to address them.
Fine. We'll take the money first.
Funk the Sauce God gave us $2 USD to say the Spurs My League series was a massive success.
I'm wondering if this is sarcastic.
Thank you, because I tried really hard on it and I put a lot of effort. So getting the credit that I deserve means a lot.
Jacob, now that you have furniture, is this series making a comeback, or are you throwing in the towel like every single year?
They stopped doing good after a while, and it's like, am I just gonna keep publishing 10 out of 10 after 10 out of 10? Like, they
That's what I'm
started
doing
like,
on my main channel right now.
oh, that's brutal, dog. Are you telling me you keep hitting 10 out of 10s and you're about to upload a Derek Lively video?
I have like 4 10 out of 10s in a row. It's been bad.
Oh man, that's brutal. I'll buy you dinner when you come out here.
I blame the month of October. Richie Miller, legend of the chat, frequent super chatter. Appreciate your $2 USD, 2 USD, whatever donation. Option for the 76er trade. Trade for OG, Levine, or free agency. We didn't really touch on this in the Harden discussion, but part of the deal with them is that just about all their contracts now are expiring. Like they have.
We definitely did talk about that, but
we didn't. All right. Well, it's been like half an hour. I already forgot.
Okay.
Dang, that was half an hour ago.
Yeah,
that's wild.
Yeah, I don't think they have what. I don't think they have what it takes to get OG, but Levine is very possible. And then Mario Hernandez, another frequent chatter, gave us $5 to say, after Steph retires, do you see the Warriors struggle like the Bulls did when Jordan retired?
Everyone's gonna have to go through a rebuild.
I'm not going to say struggle like the Bulls did, because it's been mostly like 20 years, 25 years of disaster. So I don't know. Like that's a special case. I watched a video the other day where someone said that essentially the Bulls sold their soul for Michael Jordan, and now it's just nothing but dark days for the rest of time.
And then Parth Single gave us $5 to say, should the Kings trade for a less soft big? They've got a bunch of pieces to move and a massive Barnes contract. But this is me. I thought Harrison Barnes has been doing pretty good.
I mean, he had an excellent opener. He's Harrison Barnes.
Yeah, it's like how much does that really move in the needle for them? It's like
NBA
they need
Harrison Barnes.
I agree with the idea that Domantas Sabonis is flawed, but that being said, it's like, what can you realistically put around him? Like, would just like a hyper athletic, strong defensive four be the answer? Like, I don't know. I can't think of a player in my head that they could go out and get that would like remedy the issue.
Well, I can't think of one that they can go out and get, but you know who'd be a great big to pair next to Domantas Sabonis? Miles Turner. It's almost like he could offset some of his weaknesses, and then it's actually a good pairing. But no, like I don't really feel you're right. Like, maybe if they could go out and get OG, like Sacramento is a team that I'm like, dude, go hard for OG. But like ultimately, you're probably going to have to compromise your offense to such a degree that, like, yes, you will make your defense better, but then you're going to take so much juice out of your offense that it's kind of like, what's the fucking point? You're still ultimately not that great.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Like,
that's the conundrum you get with offensive bigs who are like not really strong defensively. Is it's like, yeah, you're making our offense so good, but you are the biggest problem defensively. But if we try to adjust that, we're probably bringing in somebody who's not going to space the floor, somebody who's not going to fit the offensive scheme. It's kind of rough. It's a conundrum for sure.
Yeah, like I was sitting here thinking, could they theoretically keep the offense juiced to a certain extent with a guy like Jared Vanderbilt? And how much would they have to give up to get Jared Vanderbilt?
I don't think
he's not even been getting playing time.
Yeah. They could definitely get him. Like, I have no doubts they could get Vando, but
sources are telling me that he is injured, which is why he hasn't been getting playing time. So
that's a good reason.
Anyways, I'm not saying Jared Vanderbilt's the answer for the Kings. I'm just saying they either need to just really, really double down on this offense and just simply be good enough to where their lack of defense doesn't matter, or like they're going to have to live with the fact that their defense may keep them capped as a team to a certain extent.
Someone needs to take Jared Vanderbilt and lock him in a gym and say, you don't get to leave till you've made 5,000 corner threes.
Right.
Or
That's
even
all
just
they
like
need him to
100
do.
consecutive layups.
Yeah, he's not a good
No,
finisher.
he really needs the threes. Just be PJ Tucker.
Yeah. Well, I guess that
It's time, Rudy.
that's the inevitable. Go ahead and hit it. Just
Grizzlies.
hit the button.
Should the Grizzlies hit the panic button?
Yes.
He's bowing down in shame.
I've been suppressing this emotion for so long.
Yeah, dude, the thing that's funny about Rudy and how he is a fan of teams is he just like doesn't say anything and then just explodes in anger. Like there's no buildup. It's just like the needles dropped. Rudy is fucking pissed.
Look, dude, David Roddy is like good and thick, but he's not good at basketball. Jake LaRavia is just like booty. I don't know why we're playing him still. I would rather see Zai play 48 minutes than see either of those guys on the floor again. This is worse. It's not as bad as when Grayson Allen was on my team, but oh man, I hate these guys.
This is definitely worse than when Grayson Allen was on your team.
Look. It's just a 5-game stretch. Everybody's hurt. Our best player is not in the game, and we're trying some new stuff on offense and on defense. We're adjusting, And every year the Grizzlies have this thing where, right? Look, I'm on the team.
I've been cooking up some plays. I think we got this.
Was that like a notepad?
Right, just X's and O's. But we do this thing every year for the past few seasons where our defense is pretty fucking mediocre to start the season. Then come December, more or less, we're like, all right, let's do the stuff that works and like throw in the stuff we've been trying here and there as needed. As I remember, we were like a historically bad defense to start last year, and then we finished the year toward the top. So like, that's just the way that this shit goes, Like the Grizzlies tend to start the year off pretty bad, but we definitely tend to start the year off pretty bad when half the roster is hurt and Ja Morant ain't there for over a quarter of the season.
Sounds like Cope.
It is Cope, but like the Lakers last year, they were 2-12 or whatever, and then made a nice little turnaround. The Kings, I think, started off 0-4 or some crap like that last year. Like at the end of the day, we've only seen October fucking basketball and a little bit of November, but that shit doesn't count. We just got Bismack Biyombo. So the season starts today.
Didn't you just say that the Heat need to hit the panic button based on
look. I'm trying to pod. I think the Bucks need to panic too.
No consistent logic at all.
No, it goes out the window when it's my team, man. This is all heart, no brain. But I mean, Vince Williams Jr. is like our best player right now. Like it's like we're fucked right now. But
I don't even know who that is.
Exactly. I want to see Jaren Jackson Jr. do a little bit more ball handling stuff, be a little bit more of an offensive hub. I want to see Derrick Rose not get hurt or try to play hurt.
Dude, if you're banking on Derrick Rose in almost 2024. It is almost 20. It's been 15 years since he won MVP.
Yeah. I'm just like, we just need to get those
That's
two
not
young
right. It's 13 years.
Whatever. The Grizzlies have missed on 2 draft picks since Kleiman took over, and it's the 2 guys that we're playing a lot right now and seeing what they really have to offer. We need to cut that shit out, put John Conchar in, like, just try to be a 500 basketball team until Ja comes back. This team does not need to panic per se, but they probably are panicking. I know I am. I'm about to get in the floor and cry. I'm going to hide under the desk after I stop talking, but I think the team is still going to be good come the end of the year. But right now it's like we gave up 79 points to the Jazz in the first half. We had the worst halftime deficit in our team's history to the Jazz. Like, I knew the Jazz would do this to us at least one time during this stretch, but I didn't think it would be this time.
I mean, Larry Markkanen's him. What can I say?
We need to go get him. That's what I'll say. We need to trade away all these
Lowry
other
Markkanen on the Grizzlies would be filthy. Like so fucking good.
I wouldn't give up Desmond Bane, but I would give up Luke Kennard.
As we all know, an S tier shooting guard.
Yeah, I was gonna say what interesting.
Yeah.
Pretty interesting.
Just 7-foot Luke Kennard, Lauri Markkanen.
I will say they do have a bit of Bucks symptoms right now where like they're giving up the worst 3-point percentage in the entire league right now. Teams are shooting 43.8% from 3 against them to start the season.
I think they've given up more 3-pointers than any team ever has through the first 5 games. I think part of that is historically bad.
Part of that is, the defense hasn't been good, but also that will likely regress to a more reasonable, even if that more reasonable number is like 40%, which still isn't good. They're not going to be an 0-5 team forever. Like that. Right. I don't know how many games they're going to win prior to Ja coming back, but
that's the thing that's interesting.
They're not going to lose every game. They're just not.
I think I predicted that it would be 7-18 by the time Ja came back.
That actually seems unfortunately possible.
He's on the floor. I mean, we can look at the schedule. All right, man.
I don't want to be 0-5.
All right, dog.
I miss Tyus Jones. I miss Anthony Melton and Kyle Anderson.
Dude.
I miss Dylan Brooks.
Dude, Rudy sent me the most down bad meme I've ever seen in my life. You know that Wolverine holding the picture frame, like reminiscing, missing? It was fucking Kyle Anderson and DeAnthony Melton. I was like, dog, you are like fiending for Kyle Anderson and DeAnthony Melton.
Look, Connor Kimball in the chat. It doesn't matter if the Grizzlies have their pick. It doesn't matter that Steven Adams is out the whole year. We're not tanking when we have Ja Morant playing for any amount of the season, even if it is just 3/4 ish. Like, I don't care if we have our pick. I'm pretty sure we do, but we're not tanking. There's too much talent on this roster to tank.
Rudy, can we pull up the schedule? It's been 5 games, 20 more to go. We can look through their next 20 games and be like, who do we think they can realistically beat?
Yeah, give me 5 seconds to do that.
I mean, given that you gave up a historic deficit to the Jazz does not bode well for winning any of them, but I doubt you're going to start 0-25. It's also worth mentioning, I think like 2 of those 5 games were pretty fucking close. I think was it the Pelicans game that they just scored like 2 shots in the last? Was it even a Pelicans game? I don't know.
Yeah. So we got a mid-off
against the Mavericks
Blazers, and then another mid-off against the Blazers.
Yeah, you could
mid-off against the Heat.
You could realistically beat the Trailblazers. I mean, I'm pretty sure. I thought you played the Jazz twice already.
No, we played the Jazz once, and we're about to play the Jazz for the second time. Friday, November 10th.
So wait, let's find the game that's like the last one before Ja is back. So just scroll down a bit.
6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. I think he comes back against the Pelicans the day after Christmas, if I remember right. Yeah.
Okay. So I could see them beating the Pacers. Maybe. The Bulls beat them, so it's feasible.
He's eligible to return on December 19th. I am incorrect. So it'll be the Pelicans game, not this Pelicans game.
I'm not going to lie. I think you guys need to be making trades like now, because even when people are healthy, I still think you have a lot of 2K generics on your bench. Like so many, like, who is this guy? And why is he playing 25 minutes?
Santi Aldama's good. Jake LaRabia's ass. David Roddy's ass. It should just be John Conchar out there. Play John Conchar and Zai 48 minutes a game at the 3, and then make the rest of the team have a normal rotation.
Bismack Biyombo play a guy 40 minutes a night.
no, both
in this NBA. In this NBA,
I'm saying like 24 apiece.
All right. I think everything that's been said about the Grizzlies so far constitutes hitting the panic button.
Yeah.
Like you didn't just break down on your hands and knees because you're not panicking.
Oh no, I'm panicking. Make no mistake. Whether or not they should panic is a different question entirely. I'm gonna say that they shouldn't, but that's because I'm a fan.
Yeah, look,
I'm a real fan, blinded by optimism and hope.
What's like the draft capital situation for Memphis? I'm pretty sure
we have a ton. We always have a ton because climb is the shit.
You need to trade for OG Anunoby yesterday. I think if you have Marcus, OG, and Jaren, there's no way you're not an excellent defense. So you're already able to, survive by hanging your hat on defense. I understand that the Raptors are maybe trying to be competitive, so you may maybe not be able to do that immediately. And also, like, unfortunately, you are in such a desperate situation where OG's ability to create his shot a little bit would really, really help you. So something like that, like, I think they need to make like a big dick swing move right now. And like, this team has played it conservative with how they've thrown around picks. Obviously, if anything, they've gotten them back, but it's time to do something for real. That, or you can go the route that Rudy obviously doesn't want to, which is you bottom out this year, get like a super, super good draft pick. Like this draft is not great, but I'm sure there's a lot of high value role players in the lottery. And then next year you trade some more of your future picks, round out the roster, get real players on your bench, and you can come into the 24-25 season swinging your dick around.
But I just think there's two things. There's too much talent on this roster to feasibly bottom out with like enough to get like a high draft pick.
Just get John Morant to go on Instagram Live again.
They're 0-5. They're 0-5. What do you mean? What do you mean that there's not enough talent? There's too much talent on this team to bottom out. They're 0-5, Rudy. They haven't won a game.
John Morant is really good.
They may not want to bottom out, but they might bottom out because they're 0-5.
Yeah.
Oh man.
The point is, like,
I never thought Steven Adams was so important.
The point is, you're going to be facing an uphill battle. Honestly, I never thought Steven Adams would be this important. You're going to be facing an uphill battle. So, like, bottoming out is the easier option at that point, is what I'm getting at. Like, just get Ja to go on Instagram Live again, get another 25-game suspension, and you're Gucci.
No, that would definitely be like the rest of the season, which I guess is that helps your point, I guess.
Yeah.
But in all seriousness, I do think that we still have a good chance of like getting lucky and making our way to the Western Conference Finals. Similar to what you said in your Grizzlies video that came out a couple days ago. It's like if we get the right matchups, if there's no more like super detrimental injuries, then this is still a really good team. They've been on top of the West for several years at this point, and Taylor Jenkins is a good coach. I'm not calling for his head.
Clark come back?
That's what I was just looking up. He tore his Achilles on March 3rd, so maybe toward the end of the season, but probably out the whole year. This might be
sounds like a year that you bottom out to me. It's really what this sounds like. Especially, you got to take into consideration there are 10 teams in the Western Conference that can easily be better if you just don't even bother. If you really aren't going for it, you can easily be worse than those 10 teams.
I'd much rather swing for an OG or someone else to help us out to give us a chance at getting lucky and contending like the way the Pistons contended in fucking 2004 or whatever.
I mean, but I
have one other thing.
What's the rush? Like, Jaren and Ja are still pretty fucking young.
Personally, I say never waste a year. You look at Damian Lillard's career, man. What was the rush with him? And then he was 34 or whatever. But
I mean, we've been saying he should ask out 5 years ago.
Right.
It's not like that perspective didn't exist.
No, you're right. But I do want to get my other point off, and it's that bottoming out doesn't do much for the Grizzlies because one of the things that we excel at is picking up high-end talent toward the end of the draft. We got Desmond Bane with the last pick of the first round. We got Brandon Clark, 21. We got Xavier Tillman at like the third or sixth pick of the second round or something like that. Xavier Tillman's pretty good. Obviously, he's not like hang your hat on him, start him every night, but like he's still pretty good, especially for a second round pick.
He's a person, not a coat rack. So yeah. Also, the 2024 draft isn't very good, from what I understand.
Yeah, so like we're better at picking up sleepers than swinging for the fences on a guy like Zai, who we have now. He's playing good and he's finally emerging, but those first couple of years were rough. Sluggo left us a chat earlier saying that the Memphis is just hiding how good they are, so nobody expects them to make a run. And then at the season, they're going ham, and that's.
Are the Grizzlies making a Miami Heat run?
Bad news.
God, this light makes me look so red. It's fucking crazy.
But fellas, unless you guys want to tell me more about how bad the Grizzlies are,
hit that button.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
Wah! 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 I don't want to be 0-5.